Section 700.14b of the 2005 National Electrical Code states that abandoned cables shall be removed or terminated and made inaccessible. This requirement applies to all abandoned cables, which includes feeder wires. In this context, feeder wires are considered abandoned because the service is being disconnected. Therefore, these wires must either be removed completely or terminated properly and rendered inaccessible. Simply cutting the conduit and leaving the feeder wires inside the conduit does not meet the National Electrical Code's requirements. The wires must undergo either removal or proper termination. There are several acceptable methods for terminating feeder wires to comply with the code. Firstly, you could splice the feeder wires together. This involves creating a permanent electrical connection between the wires using a non-removable splice, such as a soldered splice or a crimped splice. Soldered splices involve joining the wires and then applying solder to create a solid, permanent connection. Crimped splices use a specialized tool to compress a connector around the wires, creating a secure mechanical and electrical bond. Secondly, you can cap the feeder wires with insulated caps. These caps, often referred to as wire nuts, are designed to insulate and protect the exposed ends of the wires. They prevent accidental contact and ensure that the wires are safely insulated. Thirdly, another method involves grounding the feeder wires to an appropriate grounding point. This involves connecting the wires to a designated grounding conductor or grounding electrode system. This ensures that any stray current is safely directed to ground, reducing the risk of electrical shock or fire. Splicing is often considered the most common and reliable method for terminating feeder wires. It ensures that the wires are permanently disconnected and poses less risk of accidental reconnection or future use. By splicing the wires, you effectively create a continuous circuit within the abandoned cable, preventing any potential for it to be energized in the future. To summarize, according to the 2005 National Electrical Code, specifically Section 700.14b, feeder wires in an abandoned 400 amp service must be either completely removed from the conduit or properly terminated and made inaccessible. Cutting the conduit alone does not satisfy this requirement. You must choose an acceptable termination method, such as splicing, capping, or grounding, to ensure compliance with the code and the safety of the electrical system. Abandoned cables, if not properly handled, can pose several risks. Firstly, they can create a fire hazard. If the abandoned wires come into contact with a live circuit or another conductive material, it can create a short circuit, leading to overheating and potentially a fire. Secondly, abandoned cables can create an electrical shock hazard. If someone unknowingly comes into contact with an abandoned wire that is still energized, they could receive a dangerous electrical shock. This is especially true in damp or wet environments, where the risk of electrocution is higher. Thirdly, abandoned cables can interfere with the operation of other electrical systems. The presence of unterminated wires can create electrical noise or interference which can disrupt the performance of sensitive electronic equipment. This is particularly relevant in commercial or industrial settings where precise electrical control is essential. To ensure compliance with the National Electrical Code and to mitigate potential risks, it is crucial to properly address abandoned feeder wires. The best practice is to remove the wires completely from the conduit. However, if removal is not feasible, then proper termination is essential. When splicing feeder wires, it is important to use appropriate splicing techniques and materials. The splice must be mechanically strong and electrically sound to ensure a reliable connection. Soldered splices, while effective, require careful technique to ensure a proper bond. Crimped splices are generally easier to perform and offer a consistent and reliable connection. When capping feeder wires, it is essential to use insulated caps that are specifically designed for the wire size and voltage rating. The cap should be securely twisted onto the wire ends to provide a tight and reliable insulation. When grounding feeder wires, it is important to connect them to an appropriate grounding point. This may involve connecting the wires to a grounding busbar in an electrical panel or to a dedicated grounding electrode system. The grounding conductor must be sized appropriately to handle the potential fault current. It is important to note that the specific requirements for handling abandoned cables may vary depending on local electrical codes and regulations. It is always best to consult with a qualified electrician or electrical inspector to ensure compliance with all applicable codes. If you encounter abandoned cables during an electrical project, it is crucial to proceed with caution. Always de-energize the circuit before working on the cables. Use appropriate personal protective equipment, such as insulated gloves and safety glasses, to protect yourself from electrical hazards. If you are not comfortable working with electrical wiring, it is best to hire a qualified electrician to perform the work. In addition to the safety considerations, proper handling of abandoned cables also has environmental benefits. Abandoned cables can contribute to waste and pollution. By removing or properly terminating these cables, you can help reduce the amount of waste that ends up in landfills. Furthermore, recycling the metal content of the cables can conserve natural resources and reduce the environmental impact of mining and manufacturing. To reiterate the main points, when dealing with abandoned feeder wires, remember the key principles. Firstly, always prioritize safety. To energize the circuit and use appropriate personal protective equipment. Secondly, adhere to the National Electrical Code and local electrical codes. Consult with a qualified electrician or electrical inspector if you have any questions. Thirdly, choose the appropriate termination method based on the specific circumstances. Splicing, capping, and grounding are all acceptable options. Fourthly, consider the environmental impact of your actions. Remove or recycle abandoned cables whenever possible to reduce waste and conserve resources. By following these guidelines, you can ensure that abandoned feeder wires are handled safely, effectively, and in compliance with applicable codes and regulations. This will help to protect people, property, and the environment from the potential hazards associated with abandoned electrical wiring. The National Electrical Code is a comprehensive set of standards that governs the safe installation and maintenance of electrical systems. It is updated every 3 years to reflect advancements in technology and best practices. Staying informed about the latest edition of the National Electrical Code is essential for anyone involved in electrical work. The National Electrical Code covers a wide range of topics, including wiring methods, overcurrent protection, grounding, and equipment installation. It provides detailed requirements for various types of electrical systems, including residential, commercial, and industrial applications. Compliance with the National Electrical Code is mandatory in most jurisdictions. Electrical inspectors use the National Electrical Code as a basis for evaluating the safety of electrical installations. Failure to comply with the National Electrical Code can result in fines, penalties, and even legal action. The National Electrical Code is a valuable resource for electricians, electrical engineers, and anyone else involved in the electrical industry. It provides the knowledge and guidance necessary to design, install, and maintain safe and reliable electrical systems. In conclusion, proper handling of abandoned feeder wires is a critical aspect of electrical safety and compliance. By following the requirements of the National Electrical Code and adhering to best practices, you can minimize the risks associated with abandoned electrical wiring and protect people, property, and the environment. Always remember to prioritize safety, consult with qualified professionals, and stay informed about the latest codes and regulations.